to another Ionic show. As you can tell, I am Mike Hardington, and I'm joined by CEO Max. How's it going, Max?
I'm good, Mike. How you doing?
It's summer for us up here in the U.S., so figured we all dress the season and throw on some colorful shirts to celebrate the holidays and everything. I
Yep,
see
I
you
got
got your
mine. Got the
looking very nice.
floral.
It's a nice little change of pace versus the hoodie and a t-shirt. Kind of break the tech kind of uniform.
Yep, for sure.
So, Max, as we kind of open up all of these, let's kind of jump through, some of the things that are on top of your mind. What are some things that you want to talk about today?
Yeah, well, there's a few things I think we had on our list, on our agenda. Um, the first of which is that Ionic turns 10 years old this year,
Wow.
believe it or
I,
not, which is wild. That's like, a huge chunk of my life and many of the people's lives here. So that's a big deal. We can talk
it
about that.
it feels weird to think about Ionic being 10 years old because I remember finding it on the internet thinking, oh, this is like a cool little thing. And that feels like yesterday to me. It's kind of strange to think about, but we've gotten a lot done in, what is relatively 10 years. It's not that long of a time, but we've accomplished a lot of things.
We really have, and it's been wild having like a front row seat to JavaScript development, going from something a little rough to a rigorous, well-respected engineering discipline, and seeing that happen and being a part of it has been actually really really fun.
I
And
mean,
while you're in it and you're dealing with porting between things, maybe it's not as fun, but when you step back and see how far you've come and the ecosystem has come, it's fun.
hindsight is always 2020 because back in those days we had things like Bower for package management,
Wow.
and while Bower was a great tool for the time, it's great to see where we started off where things are pretty rough to now we have much better tools that are more mature, and the community has kind of solidified on a few of them. We're not seeing so much churn anymore, but yeah, looking back is it's wild.
Yeah, it really is. And we were there from, like you said, the Bower days, the Angular JS days. There was no concept really of like bundlers or package management like we know it today. And then to go from that to everything from like Webpack and Babel to TypeScript to some things in between there that don't exist anymore, like Angular. I think it was like at script, if you
Pour
remember
one out for
that.
at script.
At script. So we were, to see where we are today. I know people complain about JavaScript development still being really complicated. Like, yeah, but did you see how it used to be? We've come so far.
If we have to go back to adding yet another script tag and having about 15 script tags for all of our code to be splitted, uh, I don't want to go back to those
I
days. So
don't either.
I will take the build step to be able to have optimized builds. But I think we can thank a lot of our community for like following along. Like I still see some of the names in Discord, on the forums, on Twitters, where these are people who I remember from 2014, 2015, the very, very early days of Ionic's history. Um, Communities, if it hadn't been for them, we wouldn't, I think, be around anymore.
No, I mean the community's been everything to Ionic, to the team here, to this whole thing working out. And I think, yeah, I was trying to reflect on like what 10 years is a long time, right, in open source and for projects to stick around. And I think we're as strong as ever. And I think a lot of that is because we made some conscious decisions in the beginning to focus on technologies that would endure. And I think that's why so much of the community has also endured too, because 10 years ago we were web developers. 10 years later, today, we're even more web developers than we used to be, right? Like we love web development, and we wanted to pick technologies that were based on standards that weren't going to, you know, go away anytime soon. So I think the Ionic story is really it's a success story when it comes to picking standards, picking stability, making long-term bets on technologies that are going to stick around. Like you don't, it's created this system where we as a company, we as a team here, we don't have to build everything ourselves. We don't have to do everything ourselves because you're part of this like bigger tapestry that is the web development ecosystem. You can pull in all these components. It's the biggest community of engineering projects and talent of any ecosystem ever, and we've aligned with that. And I think that's why we're still here, why the community is still here, why people are still building with the technologies, and it's just all about that stability story, I think.
So I think you can say the best bet to make is to always bet on the web.
I think you can say that, yeah.
I,
And I
I
feel more strongly about that today than I did even back then.
well, that's great. Now, if it's such a big year and we love to celebrate community, I think we have a great idea. Let's put on a small little conference. We'll invite a bunch of people down to some places. You think that sounds like a good idea?
I think that sounds like a pretty decent idea.
I think we've I think we can tell a little bit more about this idea. So if anyone has been around for any number of years, our virtual conference Ionoconf has started up when all of us were kind of meeting online, but this year we're finally meeting in person. We're going to be going down to this awesome theater down in Austin, Texas. We're going to talk about all the cool things that are happening in the ecosystem, both Ionic, Capacitor, and even the wider web community. I'm really looking forward to bringing everyone down there. I know we've been reviewing some of the talks and some of the submissions, and I think we got a good batch of people who want to come speak at Ionicon.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. I know the community's been begging us to do a conference for so long, and then obviously like the pandemic hit, and I think we would have done something 2020. That's maybe when we would have done something in person, but obviously that everything changed, so we did it online. And I think one of the things that we've been really craving is just being able to meet people who build with this stuff in person, and for them to meet the team and be able to have those conversations and just hang out. That's what I want to see. It's really like a celebration, I think, of just the community and the projects. But I'm so excited just to meet people and hang out. That's all I want to do. So after the keynote, once I can calm down, we'll definitely be able to enjoy that.
Well, we'll make sure it's going to be 2 days of amazing talks. We're going to have people from all over, from the Angular ecosystem, from the Vue ecosystem. We're going to have folks who are building capacitor apps in their day-to-day job, sharing some details and stuff behind the kind of behind the scenes that I think every kind of developer wants to hear. Kind of unfiltered, no bias. They're just going to talk about stuff that they build. So I'm really looking forward to it. Moving on, though, what are some trends that we are seeing? This is, kind of a year of reflection on the 10 years. Where do we see things moving this year and potentially next year?
Yeah. So I think one of the things about trends is we see some of the same ones every year, and it always seems like this is going to be the year of whatever that thing is. I think that's been progressive web apps. Like every time we have a show, we talk about PWAs and whether or not this is the year for PWAs. Obviously, we had something massive happen this year with push notification support coming to iOS, Safari. That was one of those last like checklist items, I think, for people uh, to kind of figure out whether or not PWAs would be viable. And so now that that's a thing, I find it interesting to just think about whether we'll see people switch to building only PWAs and not native apps. And I actually just did a blog post on this a few weeks ago about how like this whole debate between native apps and PWAs, in my opinion, is completely flawed. I personally don't think we're going to see people shift entirely to PWAs. I know they want to. I know native app development is painful, especially because of the gatekeeping that you have to go through and the tooling, and like that makes it really painful. I get that. But where I'm kind of at right now is it's really a why not both situation. and you kind of have to have both in some ways. Like I think about something like Reddit, right? Like Reddit gets so much traffic from Google search. You can't just have a native app that you push people to with all that Google traffic. You're going to have terrible conversion rates. You're going to lose people. It's just going to be bad business. On the flip side, you can't just have the website because consumers are used to going to the app store to finding apps. They want features that are only available through native SDKs. Developers want to use all these amazing third-party SDKs that are only available natively because they use native functionality that's not available in the browser. So I don't think it's the year of PWAs. I don't think it'll ever be the year of PWAs in that way, but I think we will see more and more people find that PWAs certainly made their web experience better and better, but I don't see it replacing it. So that's one that always comes up.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we've all seen that kind of firsthand. It's never quite going to replace it as much as people think.
But it's never it shouldn't have to be about replacing it. It's like you said, a why not both? And I like that kind of mentality. We can have both things and everyone can be happy.
Yeah, just really spend some time thinking about where you're going to get your users from and whether you want to take one thing away from them, the native app or the web experience, and I think it's a why not both situation. So that's one thing that always comes up. One of the other trends that we've seen a lot is I think people have stabilized their technology decisions for mobile. It's not quite those early days where everyone was switching different frameworks all the time and trying to figure out what was the best solution long term. I think things have stabilized. But I still think a lot of the same problems that people have with certain technologies are still there. So, for example, if you're building a native app development hasn't gotten easier, cheaper, or faster. It's just as hard. It's just as expensive. It's just as challenging to hire for traditional native app development teams for iOS and Android. But if you're a company that you made the decision to pick that approach, you're not going to change it because you're already so far down that road. And I agree. Don't rewrite your apps just to switch to a different framework. There are better things to do with your time if you can afford that. Instead, what we're seeing is people realizing, well, okay, instead of rewriting the app to switch frameworks, what if we just kept the base app that we have and instead try to move more quickly on certain screens and features in the app? Maybe have one of this new feature that we're going to launch be web-based, and maybe it's the same web experience we've already built for the core website, so we can just use the same code. And that kind of gets to this trend that we're seeing with both micro front ends and quote unquote super apps. I think micro front ends are what engineers call it. Super apps are what executive types call it. But the idea is the same. You have a core app that could be built with any technology, traditional, native, whatever. And then you bring in micro front end experiences that are built by different teams in different technologies, probably web-based. You bring those into the existing native app shell. So all of a sudden, you don't have to go out and hire a ton more native engineers to build those features or rebuild the features you've already built on the web. You can just bring them into your existing app and you can update them independently. You can have this parallel release cycle. You don't have to have everything go through the single release bottleneck or traditional native development bottleneck. So that's the biggest trend that we're seeing. It is absolutely exploding right now for big companies because they're the ones who have this problem. So obviously, we talk all the time about Ionic portals. We built this product, Ionic portals, to basically be the solution to this problem. It drops into your existing native app and lets you bring in this micro front end, super app, whatever you want to call it, capability into existing native apps, and then have that like amazing feature where you can update the individual experiences in parallel on their own. So that's the trend that we're seeing. That's on fire right now, is driving a lot of our business, and portals is really kind of the only game in town for that. That's drop in out of the box, everything done for you. So really exciting to see that happen.
I guess you could say it's pretty super that that's happening.
It's very super. Yeah.
That was low hanging fruit, but I'm not going to apologize for it.
Please don't.
And for something that's a little bit more of a controversial subject, AI. I think everyone was thinking that 2023 was going to be the year of AI. And while I have my opinions, I'm curious, is this the year of AI? Should
You
I
know,
be worried about my job?
it's funny because I think it's been a roller coaster, right? Like in the beginning of the year, these like ChatGPT and whatever kind of blew everyone's minds, and we didn't really know what to think. And obviously, this was going to be hugely disruptive, and it's been an amazingly valuable tool. But I will say the dust has settled a little bit, and I think the hype has cooled off. I think what a lot of people were wondering, especially engineers, was like you said, is this going to take my job? And if I look at like the work of an engineer today and the tools we're using, Copilot and ChatGPT are hugely valuable. Like I would never in a million years let you take those from me. I want those tools. They're awesome. But at the same time, like I think we understand the limitations of large language models and what have you. Like we just understand what these tools are and what they aren't a lot better, and they don't seem as magical anymore. But we kind of that doesn't mean they're not valuable. So I think where we are with AI from an engineering perspective is like you've got to be using these tools. And I say that as someone who came to Copilot really late. I was like, oh, that sounds cool, but I didn't want to like deal with installing it, like it was something silly like that. And then I got installed, and I'm like, all right, this is amazing. I love this. ChatGPT is good at other things. I use them both for different reasons. Like if you want a SQL query, or hey, just give me this full React component. Like ChatGPT is really good for that. Copilot's obviously really good for kind of a couple lines at a time. And some people do really crazy things with it, but you've got to be using these tools. But I think if you think about like the work of building software products, so little of it is actually writing code. And you hear that all the time, right? Like, don't optimize for writing code, because where the work really is the long-term maintenance, scaling, tweaking the product to make it more effective and successful. And I just don't see these tools being like as disruptive there. Like they can help you generate the code when you get it off the ground, and obviously as you work on it, but the work of an engineer requires so much more than that. And so I think where we're going to be is my job as an engineer got more fun because I'm not just burning my fingers out typing the same boilerplate over and over. I don't have to like context switch as much, so my brain doesn't have to think about, okay, now I gotta like think about all the API, like the signature for this one API I never use. So it's like, give me the code to do it. I don't care. I want to like focus on what I'm building. So that's been amazing, and it just makes us better at our jobs. But it really has not eaten as much into what's actually valuable about being an engineer as much as I thought. So to me, the hype has died off. We understand these tools, what they're good at, what they're not. And I think we're going to see that for a while kind of stabilize.
I mean, it goes back to the code. It's not the code that's important; it's the product and the things that you are building. Like we have our own AI in Discord, Kappa, that is helping developers just like understand how do I build this thing in Ionic faster than having to go through the docs, figure out what they actually need to search for first to be able to get to it. They can just say, "Hey, how do I do this?" And it has all of the docs and all of the things uh, in its own database, and it can just be like, you want to know how to do this with slides, here's the documentation. You want to know how to do this with cards, here's the documentation. Yeah, it just makes us more effective and better developers because we're not spending all that time doing all the useless stuff.
I'm happier. I'm happier, and my wrists don't hurt as much.
Yes, my typing has suffered for it, but I have not suffered for typing so much, so I will take that as a win. Well, Max, it's been fun. What are you doing for the summer? You enjoying some time off?
Yeah, I've been cooking, grilling a
Yeah.
lot. Um, we were
Yeah.
having a we're having a debate. I know this is we're doing fun summer stuff. We're having a debate about ribs, making ribs at home because um, some people obviously don't have a smoker. I do have a smoker, and I pull it out occasionally when I want to deal with it. But we were trying to argue whether or not you can make ribs at home if you don't have a smoker, and if they're any good. So I'm curious what people think. In my opinion, you kind of can. Like I've done, obviously the smoker's the best, but I've done some really good ones on the grill. I couldn't replicate it again. I tried again though. I couldn't replicate it, but it was like really, really good. So, anyways, that's our debate that we're having with summer grilling: is can you make ribs at home if you don't have a smoker? So we'll
Uh,
let other people add on to that.
I've thought about it quite a bit, and I will go back to my friend Mike Ryan. His opinion is grilling is not barbecue. So if you're gonna make ribs in a smoker, it's barbecue. If you're not, it's not barbecue. So
Just burnt meat.
it's just slowly cooked meat at a low temperature. There's no smoke in it. It's not actually a thing.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, Max, thank you so much. We're going to let you get back to your busy day, and we're going to bring up Liam, who's going to give us some updates on all things going on in the framework land. So,
Thanks,
see you
Mike.
later, Max.
Take care.
All right. We have the number one developer for the framework team, our own Air Force One. We have Liam. How's it going, man?
It's going all right, Mike. That is the first time I've heard someone call me Air Force One, but I don't totally hate it. So
I feel like if we were to compare like Craig Federighi to you, you are our Craig Federighi.
Thank you.
That's a compliment.
That means I was like, is that a compliment? I'm gonna take it as a compliment. That means a lot.
It's a compliment.
Okay, good.
So, Liam, we got a lot to cover today and not a whole lot of time. Framework team's been super busy this year so far. We got a lot of things going on in terms of new features and improvements all around. Can you tell us a little bit about what you got going on?
Would love to. So we recently released Ionic 7.1. It is the first feature release of the Ionic 7 development lifecycle. Tons of new features. Let me just jump right in and get to it. First big feature is something called input masking. This is a long requested feature that has made its way to Ionic. Input masks are a way of formatting text as you type. So if I wanted to type in, say, a US phone number, the input mask would add the hyphens, it would add the parentheses for me as I type. So it's really great for things like phone numbers, credit cards, currency, all sorts of things. This feature was added to Ionic in collaboration with the Mosquito team. Mosquito is an input masking library. It's got a really, really great team backing it. Mosquito works with any JavaScript framework or no JavaScript framework at all, making it a great candidate for usage with Ionic Framework. We've updated our documentation that shows how to install Mosquito, how to use it with components like Ion Input, and the Mosquito team also has more documentation on their website. They have recipes for phone numbers, emails, credit cards, all sorts of things. So check out the Ionic docs. We have a playground that shows how it works, and also check out the Mosquito documentation. We are very, very grateful to the Mosquito team. They've been great to work with, adding features and fixing bugs and making sure that everything is working really smoothly with Ionic Framework. Input masking, first big feature, super excited to ship that out the door. The next feature that we added was a label slot to Ion Select. So in Ionic 7, we shipped a new way of writing form controls that improves accessibility and reduces the boilerplate needed to set up these form controls. With Ion Select, we added a label property to the component that lets you pass in plain text labels. But we heard feedback from developers that they wanted to be able to pass in custom HTML as well. They want to be able to customize the colors and other decorations on the label. So in Ionic 7.1, we added a label slot to Ion Select that lets you do exactly that. So you can continue to use the label property if you just want to pass plain text, but you can also use the label slot if you want to pass custom HTML. Similarly, we added the same feature to Ion Input and Ion Text Area. So it was the same request. We added a label property, great for plain text, not so great for custom HTML. So with Ion Input and Ion Text Area in 7.1, we also added a label slot. Now, I will note that the label slot feature in Ion Input and Ion Text Area is marked as experimental right now. And the reason is that for Ion Select, we added a slot. Ion Select uses the Shadow DOM, and so it can take advantage of native slot functionality. Ion Input and Ion Text Area do not use the Shadow DOM, and so they don't have native slot behaviors. However, Stencil, which is what we use to build Ionic Framework, has a simulated slot functionality that we can use. So we're able to add the label slot functionality to Ion Input and Ion Text Area, but it might not exactly match the native slot behavior, which is why we marked it as experimental. But developers can, of course, still use it and build great apps with it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, we added a label property to Ion Range. This is kind of the opposite request. We added a label slot to Ion Range that is great for custom HTML, not so much for plain text. So we added a label property to Ion Range that lets you pass in plain text. Again, you can continue to use the label slot for range. Next up, we have added more styling to date time. We've had a lot of feedback over the past several months about being able to control how date time looks. Lots of new CSS shadow parts, CSS variables, gives developers a lot more control over how date time looks. So in particular, we added APIs to customize the look of the wheel picker, the time button, which is the button that shows the time wheel picker, and then the month year toggle button up top. That's the button that shows the month and year wheel picker. So those are available right now in Ionic 7.1, and the team is hard at work on other customization options to date time. So if you don't see the feature that you need right now, stay tuned because we have more coming. Next, we updated Ion Select to give developers greater control over the visual identity of the select. So we added shadow parts for the label and the container. We also added a new property to Ion Select that lets you customize the icon of the Ion Select. So right now it's a little like upside down triangle. I don't really know what you call it. Upside down triangle is what I'm going to call it. That's the icon that is used. And when you click it, when you open the select, the icon rotates. We made it so that you can provide your own icon. So whether that's an Ionicon or a custom SVG, you can use whatever icon you want. We also added another property that lets you change the icon that's used when the select is expanded. So rather than rotating the icon, if you just want to swap it out for something else. When we were building this, I was reviewing the PR on one of the teammates on my team, Amanda, who was working on this. One of the tests she wrote swapped out the icon for like an upside down slice of pizza. And I was like, that's the same icon. Oh, wait, no, that's a slice of pepperoni pizza. Very nice. So I like that a lot. And then the final two features were actually added as a result of our community. We are incredibly fortunate to have a really passionate community in the Ionic Framework community. So two features that were added was an update to Ion Segment. So the value property on Ion Segment previously only supported string types. Thanks to the efforts of a community member, we were able to now add number types to the value property. And then similarly for Angular, another community member contributed a great feature. For the nav controller, the pop method now returns a Boolean, so developers know if the pop operation was successful or not. So huge thank you to both of those community members. Again, would not have been possible without you. And if you are interested in getting started contributing to Ionic, we would love to have your issues, your feature requests, your PRs. So definitely keep it coming. So, we added a few features in 7.1, like 2 or 3 or so. No big deal.
Only a few features in, one minor release. Well, I think that covers a lot of amazing new things. I'm really excited about the custom icons in there. I know a lot of people have been asking about that, and the label improvements. Obviously, accessibility is a huge requirement for us as developers, but being able to customize that to fit our own style needs is always going to be a need that we have. So great job getting those in there. And yes, thank you to the community members who have submitted some contributions to the framework. Again, like Liam said, if you want to get involved, join the Discord, get in the framework repo, open an issue, talk to us, let us know what you would like to work on. Framework's only powered by the community that we have, so get involved. Liam, I got to ask you the same question that me and Max talked about. Ribs on the grill, is that viable?
Okay, so I think I'm going to get kicked from this, but I don't really like ribs.
That's fair. So, you know what? It's not. We're not going to kick you out. It's just going to be a sigh of disappointment.
Yeah, I'm more of like a steak tips kind of guy in the summer.
Redemption. Okay, so that's perfect. That's a perfectly good response. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liam, for hanging out. We're going to let you get back to adding more features to Ionic 7.2. When's that going to get here?
Whenever my steak tips are done, we'll see.
Thank you so much, Liam. I'll let you get back to your day. Take care. All right, we just heard from Liam from the Framework team. Up next, we got our own Dr. Perkins. Sean Perkins, how's it going?
It's going awesome, Mike. Thanks for the new nickname for Liam. I think Air Force One might just stick.
Is it It's Hair Force One.
Air Force One? Oh,
Liam always looks like very prim and proper, and I am just jealous because I'm just
got style.
He's got style. I don't. Hence the shirt with the cat on it. So, but enough about the shirts that I'm wearing and Liam being awesome. We're going to talk about some stencil stuff today. Stencil's gotten a lot of love recently. So I want to hear, Blake, what are some of the stuff that you got going on in there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we love major releases so much that we're going to give you another one this year. So we just released Stencil V4, which we're very excited about. It offers better development defaults, so that way you have the best experience starting off with a new stencil library. So one of those is TypeScript path configurations. I don't know about you, but I don't like having import paths where they're like deeply nested and I have to do dot dot slash try to find the thing. With TypeScript paths, you can create pretty named imports, and you can import from @shared, @utils, whatever makes sense for your project. So that now works out of the box with new stencil projects with Stencil V4. Very excited about that. Another feature that we now offer, it's not experimental, but it's opt-in, is build caching. So another thing I don't like is I don't like waiting long times between builds. I want to build as quickly as possible so I can confirm that the thing's working as I expect it to. In your stencil config, you can opt in to build caching by setting enable cache to true. Testing it against Ionic framework, we actually save about 8 to 10 seconds on each iterative build, which for us, that's a big improvement when you think about how many changes we're doing in Ionic framework. So that's also very exciting. And the last feature I kind of want to talk about with Stencil V4 is this primary output target field validation, which sounds like a lot. But what it is you use output targets in Stencil to generate your web components, to generate JSON output about your web components. This new feature taps into your package JSON to make sure that all of your configurations are correct. So if you have typing set in your package JSON, you want to make sure that's actually pointing to the right path for the output target that you're using. So it's just a nice feature to help guide you as a developer so you can focus on the things that matter, which is building the UI components in your product.
This will tell me when I'm adding things correctly to the exports into the typing field. It'll say you're doing the right thing, Mike.
Yep. And if you're not, it'll say, hey, Mike, I think you mean this, and it'll give you the path that you actually intended to type.
Love it.
So it's like AI, but not as AI as you would think. So another feature is we have TypeScript 5 support, but we did this in a minor release. So as long as you're on Stencil 3.3 or later, you can make use of TypeScript 5. Strongly recommend upgrading. TypeScript 5 is awesome. There's lots of cool new features in there. Allows you to build more type-safe libraries and applications. We've migrated the Stencil community as well. This is something that if you're in the Ionic space, we've been in the Discord for a while, but the Stencil community has kind of been off in the Slack for some time. So we are very excited that we've now merged that in with the Ionic Discord. So if you want to talk about web components, if you want to help contribute to Stencil, if you want to give us feedback on Stencil, we'd love to have you. There's a Stencil general channel. You can come chat with us. You'll definitely see me in there. So you can get a hold of me. And I guess my last drop on the major releases is we do have more involved with Stencil V4. So there is an upgrade guide, which I strongly encourage you to look at, which includes all of the deprecations and removals and other features and bug fixes that we've included.
So it sounds like we have some good lunchtime reading material, migration guide to the newest major version. Always love having the migration guides just there ready for people to use. More projects should be doing that. It's surprising that it's not that common of a thing.
Totally agree.
So that was Stencil 4 in 30 seconds or less, it feels like. What else do you have up your sleeve? Like what's coming down the road in Stencil maybe 4.1 or in the future?
Yeah, so Liam actually touched on it a little bit when he was talking about scope slots with Ion Input and Ion Text Area as being an experimental feature. We've acknowledged there's some improvements that we can make there to make those more stable and closer to the spec against the Shadow DOM. So we're actually going to be focusing in on some scope slot enhancements, helping make that feature more stable and usable for developers. We talked last Ionic show actually about element internals, and we're very excited about that. We're starting development on that, which just allows your web components to natively participate in HTML forms and also exposes an accessibility object model. So it's going to help developers build better UI elements that are more accessible and natively participate in other parts of the browser. So that's going to be great. Node version 20 has shipped. I can tell you, last I thought about Node, I was on version 12, and now we're on version 20. But we are very committed to trying to stay up to date to all the tooling improvements that's happening in this ecosystem. It's a bit, but Node version 20 support is coming. And lastly, we continue our focus on test infrastructure improvements. So currently you test your application or your libraries with Jest or Puppeteer. We have an open RFC that we'd love to get community feedback on around what versions of Jest developers want to test against, or if there's alternative tools that the community is interested in. So if you're someone that's really passionate about Test, Playwright, etc., we'd love to hear your feedback about what kind of tools you'd like to use.
We'll make sure that we have a little link somewhere to show in here. That way people can go share their opinions. Definitely want to make sure that we have a lot of input from the community on that. I know there's tons of testing frameworks out there. So with all of that, we're going to ask the most important question. Ribs. First off, do you like ribs?
So I do like ribs, but
okay.
On the question of, is it ribs if it's not smoked on a cooker? I challenge that with, if you're at Chili's at midnight having the time of your life and you order ribs, do you think they're going to pull those ribs off a smoker? I don't think so. I think they're going to grill them. So like, it depends on like what type of ribs you're wanting. Are you wanting your Chili's Applebee ribs? I think they're edible. I think they're okay. I think they're passable. Are you wanting like darn good ribs? I would go with Max on the smoker. I don't think there's anything close to it.
Well, first off, let's get to the point. You're at Chili's at midnight. You're already making some mistakes. Everyone should just be going to Joe's in Kansas City and getting some really good ribs there. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sean. I know there's a lot going on in Stencil World, so I'll let you get back to adding more features and figuring out how to get Node 20 support in there. I've been on screen way too much, so we're going to pass it off to Dallas and Connor, who are going to tell us everything going on in the web native land. So Dallas and Connor, come up to the stage.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mike. Thanks for having us. So great to be back for another Ionic show. My name is Connor Simmons. I'm one of the product marketing managers here at Ionic. And as always, it's great to hear from the framework team and Stencil team what they're up to. So thanks to Liam and Sean for those updates. But now it's my pleasure to talk the latest and greatest on the capacitor front with my man, Dallas. Dallas, welcome to the show.
Hey, Connor, thanks for having me. I think we might need to pause and take like a steak and ribs break because all this conversation's got me pretty hungry.
Sorry.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I'm excited to be here. For those who haven't met me yet, I'm Dallas James, product manager for Capacitor. I'm excited. It's never a bad time to get to talk capacitor. So I'm excited to be here today to share with you all everything the team's been working on.
Awesome. Before we do that, I know the team's been hard at work, but it's the summertime. It's a perfect time to unwind. What's your favorite summertime activity these days?
Oh man, so this works out real great because this has been my very first year owning a grill. It's not a smoker. I'm sorry, I'm not that cool yet. But it's my first year owning a grill, and so I've been out basically every night enjoying the beautiful Madison weather here, grilling up some sort of steak or kebabs. We love all that kind of stuff on the grill, so that's been really fun.
I think we're going to have to add some steak tips onto that menu for you, at least for Liam.
Hey, I got to learn.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think for me, it's got to be going out and golfing with the buddies, getting to hang outside in this nice weather, have some hot dogs at the turn. You know how it goes. But yeah, so anyway, speaking of having a good time, having some laughs with friends, we teased a little something not too long ago in our Capacitor Month festivities and live streams. And I think we're ready to make that official.
That is right. We're so excited. Today, we're officially launching background tasks to our suite of open source core capacitor plugins.
Yeah, so excited for this. So for those who didn't get a sneak peek during the live stream, can you explain a little bit of the benefits here? Like, how's this going to help us?
Yeah, absolutely. So background tasks introduces the ability to write code using web technologies that can be executed while the app is in the background or not running at all. This capability of running code while apps are backgrounded has been a long-standing request for both the Capacitor and Cordova platforms for a long time. And until now, it's really only been possible with native languages. So the background task capacitor plugin is opening up an entirely new area of feature development for web native applications that have been previously pretty inaccessible. This doesn't solve the problem for Cordova applications. This is purely a capacitor plugin, but it does provide yet another reason for devs to migrate over to capacitor. I'd say, come on over. The water and the barbecue is fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So to help better visualize in everyone's mind how this could be used, then, what are some examples or use cases where we can see this being a great fit?
Yeah, so there's a lot of use cases that this really opens up. So I can think of something like passive geolocation features where, perhaps you're sending notifications within a given area, right? You can think geofencing, or maybe uploading images to a background service, or maybe even completing other network dependent tasks for users of applications in low network environments. There are really countless opportunities for this, and these are just some examples that barely scratch the surface.
Yeah, so cool. So definitely go check out that full demo from the recording on the YouTube page. We'll get a link up there for you to check out. And the team's done such a great job, and we really can't wait to see everyone start using that. I guess moving on then to something else where we're really just scratching the surface. Talk to me a little bit about what the teams got cooking over in Capacitor Labs.
Yeah, so capacitor labs, this is something brand new. This is what we're starting to refer to all of our experimental capacitor projects. These are just kind of the fun projects that our team comes up with on the side, and we want to just throw them out there to the community and see how they stick. So right now in the lab, we're working on capacitor watch functionality. So this was started as a Skunkworks initiative to bring together the power of JavaScript to wearable devices. So the team's just kind of getting started here, but today we're excited to be bringing this to everyone as an experimental release.
Yeah, so with the capacitor watch, we're building out watch interfaces with JavaScript code.
Yeah, exactly. So we're leveraging a simple set of predefined UI controls, and your JavaScript code will be translated into the corresponding Swift UI that's required to run on your watch. There's no web view there, right? So we have to use your Swift UI code. So this is going to connect with variables that you define in your project, and it allows you to control your mobile app from your watch. Changes in state happen in the blink of an eye, and you can kind of see that happening. So capacitor watch still has some limitations, but we're excited to bring more elements with your feedback.
Yeah, it really can only go up from here. I'm sure everyone out there has some ideas swirling around their heads and how maybe they can incorporate this in their capacitor app. So we definitely can't wait to see where the project goes.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely go over to the repo. We've made that available today. Start playing around with it. We'd love to get your feedback and ideas on it.
Perfect. Well, before I let you go, I think we have one last thing to show off.
Yeah, so I think the best thing to do right now is we're just going to dive into a demo. We're going to check out what we have to show today with the brand new Capacitor Plugin Registry web UI. So I have over here the brand new UI that our web team has put together for us, showcasing the Capacitor Plugin Registry. We're really excited because this is a way to surface all of the plugins that are available to the capacitor ecosystem and make them easily searchable and parsable for developers who want to, add and install plugins into their projects. So over here, we can see how this is laid out. We have our list of plugins. We have our nice search bar up on top. We have a handful of filters over on the left side that we can kind of toggle and filter. And then there's a whole bunch of data that's surfaced about each of these plugins that will really showcase to developers information about the plugin, such as how many downloads, showcasing, is this plugin used? When was it last updated? How many issues are present on the GitHub repo? Items like that. All of this so that you can very quickly get a good sense of the plugin before you spend the time and effort to install it into your project and, try it out there. So we can very quickly kind of showcase this in action. We can come up to our search bar and say we're looking for a Google Maps plugin, right? So if we type that in quickly, it'll pull up our search and we can see we've got a whole bunch of results now for our Google Maps plugin. And we can kind of parse through these. We could say, well, maybe we want to look at official. I heard there was a cool Google Maps plugin that the Capacitor team put out a little while ago. You want to learn more, all of the names are clickable, so we can go ahead and open that up. It'll take you right into the GitHub repo when that's possible. And you can quickly look through the issues and the code and make sure that it fits your needs before you install it into your project. So we're really excited for this because it really just puts all of this data right at the fingertips of all of the developers. And the best part of all is that this is all open source, right? So we can go up here to the top. There's a button in here to submit a plugin. If you're building a plugin or you're aware of one that isn't already in the registry, you can click that button and it's going to take you right to the capacitor plugin registry. And this is really exciting because all of this is open source. So if you want to see how the API works, how we're pulling data, if you want to go contribute to this and add additional data points that are made available, you can come into GitHub here and contribute. So if we scroll down into the README here, we have this plugins.txt file. If we open this up, you can see it's just a long list of all of the plugins that we use that are consumed in the plugin registry here. So you can very quickly just, click the edit button, add a new plugin, a new line to this file, submit a PR, and the team will review it and get it merged in. And that plugin will then be made available within short time on the website. So we're really excited about how easy this is for everyone to contribute. And it's not something that is solely controlled by one person who manages everything. It's something that we fully intend to be owned by the community at large. So all of this data is really great. And we love that it's all accessible through the capacitor plugin registry. If we come back over there. Now, the final point about this is all of this data is also made available through our VS Code extension. So we've talked about this a lot on streams before. You can go in and use our VS Code extension to find plugins, and it uses the exact same data set as the plugin registry UI. So you can come in, we have in our docs how this all works, so you can go check out the docs on the capacitor site for this. But yeah, you can very quickly search and you get the exact same search experience there with all of the same information, all made available to you. And the benefit of using the VS Code extension is that it will help you keep all your plugins up to date. It can install directly from this search functionality right into your project for you. So there's a lot of benefits to using the VS Code extension here. And, it shows that people are loving the experience here. So if you have not tried it, definitely go to the VS Code extension store, install it into your VS Code instance. We just recently crossed a milestone. We talked about this. I think we tweeted it recently, that we just crossed 200,000 installs on our VS Code extension.
Incredible.
That's really exciting.
Definitely.
Right? So there's a lot of people using the VS Code extension. We're really excited to see the new web UI for the plugin registry. We're excited to see it integrated into the VS Code extension. This is just a great step forward, I think, for all of the capacitor engineers.
Totally. Yeah, thanks so much for running through all that with us. Obviously, the plugin registry is going to be a massive help to the community. The VS Code extension has clearly already been a massive help and contribution to the community. So really, thanks for digging in there with us. And perfect. Well, I think that's about all we got for today on Capacitor.
All right. Well, as always, thanks for having me on, Connor. And, for anyone out there in the community, if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, please reach out. I try to hang out on Discord when I'm around, and, you're always welcome to reach out, tag me on there, and, I'll come hang out with you and we can chat.
Great. Well, thanks. And I think we can hand it over to Cecilia and the AppFlow team up next. Thanks again, Dallas.
Thanks, Connor. And hello, everyone. Well, we've reached my favorite part of the Ionic show, which is sharing all of the amazing things happening with AppFlow. I'm Cecilia Martinez. I'm the developer advocate for AppFlow, the mobile CI/CD platform built by Ionic. AppFlow combines smooth sailing and good vibes to help you ship your mobile apps quickly, and it's all thanks to the amazing AppFlow team. Super excited to be here today with Ashwini Shukla and Matt Netko, product managers for AppFlow. Welcome, Matt and Ashwini.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, before we get into some sizzling product updates, I'm really curious. I want to know what your favorite summertime food is. Ashwini?
All right. So I'm going to go with mango salsa. Growing up back home in India, we always associated summer with mango season. In the US here now, I get mangoes outside of summer season too, but it's that nostalgic feeling about being able to eat mangoes in summer makes it like my favorite summertime snack.
Awesome. And Matt?
Yes, I love mangoes. There's what's not to love about them, right?
Yeah.
For me, anything off of the grill, hamburgers, brats, and of course ribs. It doesn't matter how they're prepared. I'm more of a barbecue sauce person, so just got to pick the right sauce. So it just, grilling lends its, itself to just good vibes with family and friends and being outdoors. So what's not to love? What about you, Cecilia?
Yeah, so I have to agree. I do love a good mango, or as my mom calls them, mangos, and anything off the grill. I'm partial to fajitas, so definitely love a good fajita and Rita day out by the pool. But for me, my top pick is definitely going to be a classic corn dog. It just reminds me of like being at a fair or like a ball game. But something about putting food on a stick just makes it taste better. Am I right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right into the pool and start by talking about a brand new feature in AppFlow. So I come from a testing background, and I know how complex and complicated it can be to test native mobile apps. So I'm super excited about this feature. This lets you test native iOS and Android builds of your app right within AppFlow. So Ashwini, can you tell us more about this awesome new integration?
Yes, we definitely kicked off the summer with a brand new AppFlow feature that will make testing your native application a breeze. Powered by Appetize.io, we now support in-browser testing for your iOS simulator and Android debug builds. You know what that means, right? That means you just go ahead and build your application in AppFlow dashboard, and you never have to leave the browser. You can just start testing right there in the browser. Now, this feature not only lets you test different devices, but also lets you capture network logs and debug logs. So you just kind of get a lot more out of your testing efforts right there in the browser itself. This is accessible via a secure URL. So you can just take the link, share it with your QA team, and no matter where they are, like by the pool, on the beach, you just fill up your icy drinks and just get testing. So it's a great way to have more flexibility for testing. So we love this feature that we just introduced.
Well, I love the idea of testing poolside, and it feels like a game changer, honestly, for developers and testing teams, especially with that debugging info built in and the ability to share via URL. So you can actually see this feature in action on a recent webinar that Ashwini and I did on testing mobile applications, or you can try it out yourself today in AppFlow. Well, of course, with all these new features, it is important that AppFlow is fast and performant. So we've made some recent improvements that you may have noticed. The first is the login experience, which is now several seconds faster. And we're also always working behind the scenes to update core dependencies to increase AppFlow performance over time. Coming soon, we're adding the ability to cache NPM dependencies to speed up builds. This is a big one. So for those of you running a build in the same commit or a new commit without any changes to your package or yarn lock file, you should notice a significant reduction in build times. And of course, it wouldn't be summer without updates to build stacks, everyone's favorite summer pastime. But as you may know, AppFlow manages the machines and dependencies needed to build your app. So we handle all the updates to the latest versions, so your team doesn't have to spend time patching environments. So in order to support Capacitor 5, we created a new Linux build stack that includes Gradle 8 and Java JDK 17. Additionally, new Mac and Linux versions support Ionic CLI 7, Cordova CLI 12, and the latest versions of Xcode and CocoaPods. And just in case the team hasn't been busy enough with all of that, we have 2 new features coming soon that we want to talk to you about today. The first is a big improvement to AppFlow's live updates. So live updates let you ship changes to your mobile app without going through a new version in the App Store. This is a super, super popular feature of AppFlow with millions of updates shipped to users each month, all without having to go through App Store approval. So Matt, what can you tell us more about what's coming for live updates?
Lots to talk about. Really excited to share our biggest live updates update in recent memory. We have several performance-related changes that you're absolutely going to love. We've rebuilt the core functionality of live updates from the ground up in native iOS and Android libraries. And in our initial testing, we've seen massive improvements in reducing the time it takes to download and apply new live updates as a result. So as part of this effort, we're going to be releasing very soon a new capacitor-based plugin, and with a focus on native code and this capacitor-based plugin. It's really exciting because we, on our side, will be able to innovate much further than we could with the legacy Cordova-based plugin. And speaking of Cordova, if you're using our classic live updates today with Cordova plugin Ionic, that plugin name, you can look forward to a seamless migration to the new one as well. No disruptions to your customers or end users necessary. So what I'm really excited about is these enhancements, because of what the work we've done behind the scenes here. They're going to be available to all 4 live updates products soon, including Ionic portals, capacitor, federated capacitor, and self-hosted live updates.
Wow. So that's definitely that's some big news right there. So if I'm hearing you and I'm understanding everything that you just shared, which is a lot, we're not only going to get better performance, a seamless migration with no disruption to your users, and the ability to innovate even more and add some exciting new features, all from this one update. Is that
You've
correct?
got it.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I cannot wait to see it in action, and thanks so much for sharing those details. I also understand that we're working on a new feature that uses everyone's favorite topic right now, AI, to help troubleshoot one of the more frustrating parts of mobile deployments, which is build errors. So what do we have in the works there, Ashwini?
Yeah, so this summer is turning out to be quite the summer of AI. ChatGPT made big waves earlier this year, and Appflow has decided to ride them. So, as you said, right, like there's nothing more challenging than debugging builders. But hopefully, the days of trying to read the build logs and finding the errors are soon going to be behind us. After all, I want to spend my summer days looking at the build logs, said no one ever. so, so we put OpenAI to work, and we're happy to introduce a new feature called Appflow Assist. So on those build errors, just let us do the heavy lifting for you when finding the potential solutions. I have a quick demo here for you. So as you can see in this demo, a potential solution is just a click away. You simply pick the failed build that you're trying to fix, open the Appflow Assistant console, and provide it the consent and let it do its magic. Look, and if the solution that's provided to you doesn't exactly meet your needs, you can always now looking for a different solution. Try it again. Let it come up with a different solution that may be a better suit for your problem. So it let the Appflow Assist generate all the possible solution. You take your pick, and there you go. Like it will be very easy for you and a quick for you to just go ahead and fix your builds that way. So our goal is to help you fix those errors sooner, so you can just go back to enjoying your long summer days.
That is awesome. Kind of like how we were talking about AI earlier, and I know I definitely like having that kind of helper when I'm working through tough issues. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited to see that Appflow is exploring this arena. So definitely keep us posted on developments there.
Yeah, we're super excited to have this available to our community here soon.
Great. Well, Appflow isn't all summer fun. We know that you take your app development really seriously, and so do we. We always have enterprises top of mind, particularly when it comes to security. Matt, can you fill us in on some security updates?
Yes, as we all know, nothing ruins a summer barbecue faster than a security incident. And with all of them on the rise, unfortunately, these days, it's important to choose a cloud provider like Appflow that puts security first. We take your data privacy very seriously. So I'm excited to announce that Ionic, the company, and Appflow, the mobile CI/CD platform, is now SOC 2 Type 2 certified. The process takes many months to complete. And so I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the Appflow team for making this a big priority for all of us and our customers and across the Ionic user base. And note that we're really proud of this. We set a record with our vendor for the fastest time to earn Type 2 that they've ever seen. So much like our performance-based boosts and live updates, we pursue that across moving fast across all things. So on another front, if your company is interested in pursuing live updates, but has strict guidelines in place that prevent connecting your code repositories to third parties like Appflow, we have a robust option for you now called self-hosted live updates. You build the code in your infrastructure and host the live update yourself or with Appflow. And Appflow manages the deployment and management of the live updates. It's a win-win for security-conscious companies. For more information, check out ionic.io/Appflow.
Wow. Well, I know that the team has worked incredibly hard to achieve that SOC 2 certification. So a huge round of applause there. And this will surely let all teams know that it's safe and secure to use AppFlow for their apps. You can learn more about what SOC 2 certification means in our recent blog post called Why Every Cloud Provider Should Be SOC 2 Certified. And we'll post a link to that as well. Well, summer can't last forever, unfortunately, and neither can our segment. So that's all the time that we have, but we have had a great time being with you here today and sharing all of these updates. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments, and make sure to follow us at UseAppFlow on Twitter. Up next, we have Josh and Christine for all things portals. Over to you.
Hey everybody, we are so excited to be back with another Ionic show to discuss the amazing power of portals. I'm Christine Perez-Sibi, Product Marketing Manager at Ionic. Portals is the perfect solution for large enterprises to consolidate existing applications and build new features within a single cohesive mobile experience. And this solution would not be possible without Josh Thomas, Product Manager of Portals, and his amazing engineering team. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, Christine. Good to see you again.
Now, Josh, I have to know, if you can go anywhere for a summer vacation, where would you go?
Well, for actual summer trips, next week I'm going to Hong Kong and Shenzhen. And then in August, I'll be heading to New England for a real vacation. But really, I'm just looking forward to seeing some mountains outside of the flatland where I am now. But what about you?
Awesome. That sounds like some really great trips. I would have to say San Diego. It's a perfect summer spot, and I was born there, so I have a little insider information as to where to go for all the hottest spots to explore. So if you're ever in San Diego, let me know. I'll tell you all the great spots to check out. All right, great. So let's get started. Now, as you may recall, back in February, we hosted the world's first ever Micro Frontend Summit, where we brought together industry leaders from around the world to discuss micro frontend architecture solutions for modernizing mobile applications. At the event, we had 2 speakers dive into the concept of super apps, and those talks ended up being some of our most popular sessions. Josh, can you give us a brief overview of super apps? What are they? Why would enterprises want to use them?
Sure thing. Super apps are applications that provide a set of core native features like app navigation and login access, while also giving access to independently developed mini apps. You could think of it as a way for multiple verticals or teams of an organization to develop independent application experiences that can be brought together.
So what's the difference between a micro frontend architecture and a super app architecture?
Not much, really. It all depends on scale. So whether you're a large scale enterprise, which is building and maintaining multiple application experiences, or a smaller organization building and maintaining multiple features within one application, the structure is identical.
I see. So I remember reading that Apple and Google don't really allow super apps in their app stores. Is that true? Can you give us some insight into that?
Yeah, not necessarily. So if an application shell and the mini apps are all owned and maintained by the same company, then there's not a problem with the App Store. But when you're looking at an app like Alipay or WeChat, the native application shell is owned by one company, and then all of the mini apps are owned and maintained by separate companies. You're kind of creating an ecosystem, right? And this is in direct competition to Google Play and the App Store. So these probably wouldn't fly.
But okay, so now I want to build a super app. How would I get started?
Yeah, so it's a really fantastic concept. Super apps are more beneficial for larger enterprise companies looking to consolidate multiple app experiences in one super app. If you work for a smaller organization with multiple development teams and want to push out updates and new features at a really fast pace, a micro front-end solution using portals is the way to go.
Okay. But let's say I was in a large scale enterprise. How would I even begin to build a super app? What are some things to think about before even getting started?
So first, you're going to go with Ionic Super App SDK Portals. It provides a way to create independence in development of the mini apps in the super app while exposing native functionality to those mini apps. So being able to log in to the super app and then continuing that experience into the mini apps in a fluid user experience is a really powerful paradigm. But it also provides a really important feature, the ability to manage, develop, and distribute updates to those mini apps independently from the super app.
Gotcha. Okay. So do you have a demo of Super Apps in action?
Of course I do. So this is a super app that we built using portals, and it's called Supernova. It's a B2E application for organizations. So let's go ahead and log in and take a look at some of the apps that are available. So you can see here we have human resources, people perks, and time tracking. In human resources, we can see a list of time off requests, or we can request time off, whether it's vacation or sick time. Under people perks, we can give accolades to coworkers. Let's give a perk. And then under time tracking, since I'm logged in as a contractor, I'll create a new time entry. Or I'll try to, but we'll come back to that broken button later. So this super app was built using Swift for iOS, and then the mini apps themselves are Ionic and React. And portals allow some really interesting things here, allowing this intermingling of the mini apps and the super app itself. So when we go into time tracking, we're actually passing session information into that mini app from the super app. And if we go in and make a change here, like let's actually go ahead and create a new entry. Well, we'll try to create a new entry, but apparently that's broken. So let's go ahead and fix the code. It's commented out. So in VS Code, let's make the change to uncomment it, commit that. And I don't want you to have to wait on a build. So I already have a build of this specific change fix. So we're going to deploy a live update for it using AppFlow, and we're going to deploy that to production, and it's complete. Now back in the application, we can log out, log back in, go to time tracking, and you see that the button is now wired up. So in less than a minute, I was able to identify the bug, fix it in the code, do a build, do a release, and now this emulator was updated, but also if I had a population of thousands of devices for a B2E application for internal employees, they would be fixed there as well, just that quickly. And that's the power of portals.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Josh, for walking us through this wonderful world of portals and super apps. How can anyone watching today learn more?
Yeah, not a problem. Happy to. So you can head over to ionic.io/portals, and you can set up a demo with one of our portals product specialists.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Josh. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Mike, back to you.
All right, everyone. What a fantastic round of updates that we have today. I'd like to invite everyone back up. So if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat. We'd like to go over them now. So everybody, come back on up. Oh, wow. The illusion has been kind of ruined, but we are all here to chat. We are so excited that you all kind of hung around today for a good chunk of time to go over everything or to listen to us talk about everything that we had to share. So we got a few questions that popped up during each of your presentations. Kind of want to go over them and figure out what can we do to improve everything across the board. I will ask this one real quickly because I know it's going to be one of the more popular questions that pops up. So Liam, I'm sorry. Material 3. Can we talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a poorly kept secret at this point. This is not an announcement. But we are working on Material Design 3 support for Ionic. The big thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out how do we introduce this while minimizing breaking changes, because we recognize Material Design 2 has been essentially the standard in Ionic for several years. You all have built applications that expect that Material Design 2 will be available and will work a certain way. And so Material Design 3, of course, is a big change, but we also don't want to just break all of your applications with this new feature. So we're intentionally being quiet, intentionally taking our time, because we want to make sure that when we introduce this feature, we do it right, and it's a really good experience that all of you developers deserve. So short answer is yes.
So Material Design 3, it will be happening, everybody, but you didn't hear it here. And we also have another little bit of announcement. We kind of teased on it during Liam's segment, but spoiler, Ionic 7.2 was released today. So if you have not updated your apps yet, you were here during the release, so kind of understandable. But go update your apps today. You get the latest and greatest versions of the framework, and it's a new release. What's not to love? Now, we have a few more questions, and this is going to be one that was got a lot of attention in the chat, and this is around background tasks. This is something that I think, Dallas, you said everyone was pretty excited for this. It's been a long-standing request. So kind of, if people had questions or they are running into issues with background tasks, where's the best place to go to kind of get help, understand how the plugin works, and just report any bugs?
Yeah, definitely. So if you looked on the capacitor site, the docs are up for both background tasks and watch. I think background task is called background runner. If you've looked at those, they're fairly complex and in depth. And so these are definitely the most complex plugins we've developed and put out there. So for anyone who's having issues, you have any questions, jump into our Discord. That's definitely where you'll get the most interactive support from our engineers. We'll be trying to keep a close eye over there over the next week or two as people kind of get familiar with that, as we get some more examples built out. So if you have questions, just because of the in-depth nature of how these plugins work, reach out on Discord, and we'd love to help you out over there.
Awesome. And yeah, we have a quick little link for you all in chat for everyone who wants to check out the docs. We'll highlight it over here. You can check out all of the docs that Dallas just talked about, figure out how to use background tasks. I've already been trying to make some use out of it inside of a capacitor watch app, which is super, super, super fun. So great job. Great job for adding all of that. Now, this is one that I think really, really, really hurt me. Was someone asking why they saw gray hair in my beard, and it's been 10 years. 10 years in open source. We'll do that to anybody. But we will get back to the actual, awesome stuff going on with legitimate questions. For Josh, obviously you've been working with super apps for quite a bit right now. What are some common use cases for wanting to build super apps? Is this something that everyone should be doing?
Maybe. I don't want to tell people they shouldn't build it, but I would say that really for B2E is like one of the most common scenarios we see, where organizations are building applications that are meant to be used by their employees, or for B2B, where companies are building super apps to interact with other businesses. Just the ability to have a lot of teams creating independent applications and to really have a single place for login to authenticate to all of the applications at once. It just makes for a really great workflow for jumping between applications for customers and for end users. We actually have a company that's putting this in a lot of stores right now for their store employees so that they can make use of mobile devices. I think it's a really great use case.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've always been curious with how the actual process of building a super app works. So it's fantastic to see how easy it is now with portals. Cool. So we're gonna turn it back to Liam real quick for a question on Mosquito. Now, when you first said it, I thought you were talking about the bugs, but I want to hear more about Mosquito and what other frameworks or tools does it support? Because you said it was a pretty common library, right?
Yeah, so one of the things we really like about Mosquito, whatever, and one of the things that actually drew us to it in the first place, kind of like a mosquito to a breathing human being, is that it works with really any JavaScript library. So they do have an Angular integration, React integration, Vue integration, but it also works with any JavaScript library. So if you're using Solid or Svelte or no library at all, you can still use it, so you can still access the full power of Mosquito.
So cool. No matter what tools you decide to use, Mosquito will be there to always help, much like summer times and mosquitoes. At least where I live. Cool. We got another question, and this one's going to be for Dallas. This is about the language and the tools that we used inside of Capacitor. Have there been any thoughts or any kind of desire to move to using something like Kotlin or, I guess, just Kotlin inside of the Android landscape? We already use Swift for iOS, so.
Yes, there's definitely desire there. It's just a larger change, right? To rewrite the entirety of the Android platform for that. If you look at all of our most recent plugins, they all rely on Kotlin. So we do use that in all of our new projects. It'll probably just be a little while before we can get back to backporting Kotlin into the main Android platform, but we do want to get to do that.
Okay, so I'm not hearing it's not going to happen, but it's going to be a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so Java works great. Like, as the current build system, we're not expecting any deprecations or anything like that to come down the pipe from Google. Java still powers a lot of Android applications. It isn't going anywhere. So while it's something we'd love to do for our sanity, it's kind of a behind the scenes thing. So,
well, what's the motto? Java powers how many billion devices?
Right. Billions of apps and devices. Yeah.
It can't be that terrible if it powers that many devices. So I don't know. I've never written Java, so I'll just take your word for it. Cool. We do have one question here, which is not really for anybody, but it's more for I guess I can take this kind of what should we expect with the OutSystems acquisition? I think we're all doing it. This hasn't really been that drastic of a change, and I'm sure anyone up here can share their opinions. We've gotten to work with the folks at OutSystems, but as far as things go for our goals and our kind of vision for how we want to build Ionic, nothing's really changed. We're still trying to build the best developer tools that we can for mobile apps and build the best frameworks for actually building those web native apps. So hopefully, it's, as Michael says, it's more of the same, which is really, really great. I really very am happy how things have turned out. So we are kind of running out of time. I want to make sure that we get through all of the questions. Now, Neko and Ashwini, we want to talk about some of the SOC 2 stuff. SOC 2, obviously, it took more than a few months. Is there anything kind of, that you can share kind of behind the scenes? Like, what are some of the things that we had to make sure were tested in the SOC 2 process?
Yeah, sure. Everyone's favorite topic around the whole company. I love it. What's great about our setup is oftentimes you might have a company that does need to get their ducks in a row in security manners, if you get my drift. But that wasn't our case. It was mostly a lot of paperwork, a lot of just gathering what they call it evidence. Basically, sounds like an intense investigation, but it's not. Gathering evidence just to prove that we are managing customer data securely, and performing a lot of things that even at the company level, which I didn't know going into it, things just like onboarding and offboarding, running performance reviews, and practices around that, and all of that we had in place. So it was some tweaks here and there, and just over time rolling that out to broader company. But and maybe some development life cycle things. But again, we have been around, as we mentioned, for 10 plus years now, and pretty mature teams and really robust engineering with all our different products and teams. So it was honestly just a lot of it is out of our hands in terms of the time frame. It's just not defined or they define the process and how long it takes too. Some of it's out of your hands. So if it was the Ionic way, we'd do it in a month instead of several months. Just like we ship software fast. So
the nebulous agency that goes ahead and makes sure that we are actually doing things in a secure manner.
Exactly.
Now we are basically at time, so I don't want to waste any more time. I do want to share one little amazing thing. Again, we have IonicConf coming up in October, the 10th and 11th, down in wonderful Austin, Texas. If you have not been to Austin, it is a fantastic place. The theater that we got is so cool. I'm very excited to bring everybody there. Check out ionic.io/IonicConf. Find some more information. We'll be updating all of our speakers in the coming days, weeks. We'll be getting all the speaker information up there. We have our first round of 6 speakers already onboarded, ready to go. So we'll be posting more information. Get your tickets there, get your hotels and everything. It's going to be a lot of fun. So from all of us here, thank you all for hanging out for a good part of an hour today. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day wherever you are, and take care, everyone.